Hello again. So, right, I'm going to do sort of just a few sort of shorter videos, potentially. They always end up being longer than I think, talking about some of the various sort of bits going on here. So, right now I'm near the startup village, which is just here, which you can just sort of see, hopefully, even though my terrible phone doesn't let me use the main camera now for some reason. Anyway, see a bit of it here. So these sort of little structures with the sort of frame on top, they're basically where all the new sort of businesses are. So, and you can also see some really lovely landscaping behind me. Look at that. So what you've got here is a lot of sort of new companies or startups that are trying to get support or trial new projects or have got new innovations to sort of trial out. Now, there's quite a lot of interesting stuff. I'm not going to talk about everything here at COP, but and it's also a bit awkward walking around talking because whilst you may look here and see that actually it's fairly quiet, when you actually go into a venue, it's pretty rammed, and also one, it's incredibly busy and you can't really stand there and do a video surrounded by people and show all the things off. But also, there's the lungs kicking in. It's challenging because sometimes sort of dignitaries and stuff show up. So, for instance, I was just in a pavilion and they came in and said, actually, can everybody sort of stay where you are because in a minute the Romanian president's going to come in. And then one of the guys on the group yesterday went outside and sort of bumped into Bill Gates kind of thing. So there's a lot of obviously high-profile people here, and that's because at its core, COP is a conference for politicians to come to agreements and businesses to sort of plan for the future, which is something we've seen here in the sort of startup village. So, for instance, one interesting one that I was surprised to see, well, generally I've been surprised to see the amount of sort of British people here, and most of the things I go to, actually, there's always predominantly like a significant portion of British people, which is always quite surprising, especially this part of the world. But then I guess British people do get involved in a lot here. Anyway, I bumped into Barclays and they were offering 500 million to help facilitate sort of new tech and trial projects and all that kind of thing. So quite interesting. And then a lot of the sort of smaller companies themselves, I'm just going to pause this because I need to cough. They basically have got a lot of sort of really interesting tech. So there's some interesting ones around water, which is obviously something I'm involved quite heavily in at the moment. And they're using things like water panels. So instead of a solar panel, you have a water panel, and that can generate water from the air. Quite interesting. I've heard of this sort of thing before, but I've never actually seen one, so nice to actually see that. And then also some companies doing sort of on-site water treatment from incredibly contaminated sources, using that to sort of turn it back into drinking water or be utilised for whatever else it may be. So really great business for water tech there. Also some other things which are quite interesting. So there's some sort of catalysts for the creation of cement. So what this does is basically it means that through the production of the cement, and once it's put into a concrete product, that this curing process can actually absorb as much CO2 as it's sort of let out during its creation. This is what it says on the tin. So obviously that's a game changing because cement's one of the biggest contributors to carbon. But then also there's other things where you just think, why is that here? So and again, not to dig any companies or anything, but there's a lot of sort of companies here with sort of sustainable beverage packaging, but ironically right next to them are shops selling beverages in like completely unsustainable packaging. So it's kind of a bit like, okay, surely there should have been a bit more coordination on that perhaps. And it's just kind of quite, so I didn't actually notice that. Someone else pointed that out to me. They said, have you noticed that? And I thought, oh yeah, that is odd. But hey, hopefully they've got each other's contact details right. But otherwise, there is an awful lot going on. I mean, I've not been following the main conference itself really because, one, to be honest, I'm just not that interested. Because at the end of the day, the politicians are going to do whatever they want to do, and industry, which is the side I'm more focused on, is going to do what it's going to do, and hopefully we can make it do what it does better. And that's sort of what we're here to try and get people to do. And also, when we do meet politicians, we want to try and influence sort of their core policies. And I don't think that's really, well, we don't have the platform to do that here, so it's much more about finding the opportunities when we get home or meeting the people that can connect us with people that can actually make more effective decisions. So, yes, not a very short video, but a bit of a summary on sort of the startup village. And then also there's some quite cool bits of architecture as well around, so I'll just pan around again. Like here you've got this crazy big building. And on the photos, that was one of the bits I really wanted to go and sort of see and get to do a little video inside. But it's in the blue zone. Now COP is split into two parts, so there's the blue zone and the green zone. Now the blue zone is only for sort of special people, so government officials and all that kind of thing. Whereas the green zone is for anybody like me who could just sort of rocks up, or I mean, we've technically, I guess, been invited, but to actually get here, we just had to sign up. So I always thought COP was kind of this exclusive club, but actually it's not really. Anybody can turn up. Maybe others are different, but that's what's happening here. So if you ever are interested, you can just basically sign up and come along probably to the next one. But again, if you're just coming to listen to people talk, you can find most of that online, so wouldn't worry about it. Anyway, I'll probably do a bit more of a wander around and find some other companies doing some interesting stuff and see if I can explain what they're up to.